doubts clear. Okay, no problem. So we have covered the topics. So today I will go to the topic on environment in ancient and modern societies. I think that is in block 4 of the syllabus. So we know, as I was discussing previous class, that human society has come of different ages, like hunting gathering society, then agricultural society, then industrial society, then now we are in a technologically advanced or technologically developed society. So if you see, human beings initially were in the natural world. They don't have some artificial structures, artificial buildings, or we can say they don't have the artificial man-made technologies to move fast from one corner of the earth to another. But with the advancement of science, we were being able to move very fast. So now we are thinking our global or our globe or planet Earth is like a village. So we say global village. Not now we are not saying it that it is a planet or it is a far away from the other. Each now the technology also have made us to reach out through video calling, online modes. But you see, the COVID-19 also taught us how to be adapting in the adverse conditions. That's why the online education or the previously distance education were there. Distance education through the reading of the study materials, etc. But online mode has been more effective, some more advanced or version of the distance learning, where the audio visuals we are able to get from the teachers or university, and also direct one-to-one interaction is being possible through online classrooms. So we have come off from the hunting gathering society till now to a technologically advanced society. From times immemorial, and humans have sourced all resources, maybe primary and secondary, from this natural world. Over time, with excessive use, we are also striving that environment be preserved and protected through human action. Society and culture have a direct relationship with the environment and natural world that we have inherited. As environmental problems are becoming more complex, or can say multi-directional issues, multi uh, problem-oriented societies are coming up with relation to environment. So society and culture have a direct relationship with the environment and natural world that we have inherited. So as environmental problems are becoming more complex, with impact of one region affecting the other at a global level, the realization that this natural world needs protection is of critical importance. The environment has become one of the most important issues today. Human society depends on environment for sustenance. With the new challenges for preservation, it is desired that people realign their needs with the sensitivity to preserve the um, values of nature. Individuals and groups or communities of people in the past have respected their environment, as we are discussing in the previous class, through sacred groups or the community-based biodiversity conservation. So ancient societies were in um, or were growing and also respecting the nature's power and unpredictability. But now it has changed a lot. Now societies are able to predict the natural happenings, where the lightnings are going to be in the next hour, where the more showers are going to be there, where the cyclone is getting to hit or having landfall directly. So exact latitude, longitude, or the point of Earth is being predicted, and the impact range from on the global perspective is also being predicted. So they developed wisdom, or we can say the prediction power, by observing the set patterns and risks involved while dealing with natural phenomena. Like the simulation modeling studies are being done. So ancient societies also had embedded morals and values of protecting environment. Modern society rests on the twin aspects of mechanization and individual freedom. Any discussion on environment must include strategies to strengthen individual morals and responsibilities while also integrating ecological and sustainability criteria into decision making by means of information technology and moral science. So now we are able to, as we were discussing in previous class, that how IT has been a very strong background, or has enabled the society to deal with the environmental situations, environmental disasters, or to tackle with the problems, environmental problems very effectively. You see the example of forest fires. Previously, the forest fires were happening. We are in no way to control these things. But now, satellite technology, remote sensing technology has come up, which exactly taking the picture from the off and exactly predicting the location, latitude, longitude where it has happened. So the message of the site of occurrence of fire is going to the respective forest division office through internet technology. Then the field staffs on the field level or the range level or the forest division level are immediately rushing to the site to control the fire effectively. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to control the forest fire. Even we know forest division must not have known where the forest fire is happening. So accordingly, we are predicting and we are controlling the natural disasters. The most prominent challenge of modern societies is to narrow the gap on the one hand between prevailing short-run rationalities of the economic and the political decisions. On the other hand, the requirements of sustainability in the long run. So this will require a focused long-run approach on creating value-based changes in the so-called global village, as I was already saying. So it is also mentioning there the global village. Now we want any or to address any disaster issue in America or any disaster issue in Kerala. So immediately through the transport or air travel or the fast run mechanisms, we are able to, or cargo ships, we are able to make or to address the issues or challenges very effectively within a short period of time. So it has been a global village. You see, the money transfer was very difficult. We have to wait for months together. But now the situation has been so easy, and the situation has been so um, yeah, the situation has been very technology advanced. Within minutes, within seconds, we are now able to transfer money within a short period of time. And with like the technologies or financial apps, like we can say Google Pay, Phone Pay, internet banking, etc., or other mechanisms. Huh? So you see, the technology has played an important role in this area. You see also the other aspects of environmental challenges that we are facing now, like the people are saying that the solid waste management, we are dealing with very effectively with the 3R principle, like reduce, recycle, and reuse. So we know the value of resources and how our economic investment um, uh, is reduced with the reuse and recycle of the different products or different resources very effectively. So the reduce, reuse, and recycle methodology also has helped us to save our forest resources, or the even to decrease the carbon footprint or global carbon footprint on the ecosystem. As we know, as the more and more transport will use, or as more consumerism you adopt, or as more you adopt for the consumerism society, so your use of resources becomes more and more, and your footprint or the release of the greenhouse gases on the planet increases. So that's why having more carbon footprint or ecological footprint. So to address this issue of greenhouse gas emissions or the carbon footprint, then we uh, so so the so we have to reduce the level of use of fossil fuels. That's why we have to adopt clean energy, like we can say solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, tidal energy, or we should adopt towards, or we should more adopt towards renewable energy instead of non-renewable energy. So then role of environment in ancient society, as we know that we live in the natural world uh, of water, land, plants, animals that coexist with us on Earth. All these forms the basis of human existence and development. Meaning of the word environment we know is surrounding, or which implies the external conditions influencing development or growth of people, animals, or plants, living or working conditions. Environment therefore refers to the sum total of conditions which surround man at a given point of time. For only man, the environment considered of the basic physical aspects of the planet, like land, air, and water, and biotic elements like plants and animals. With the advancement of human society, we no doubt human beings, both man and woman, extended their environment through social, economic, and political functions. So, like some ancient society, the Greek society, which is known for its philosophy on government, art, architecture, philosophy, and sports. Known as the cradle of culture, many of these movements and thoughts became foundations for modern Western society and also democracy as an institution. So these were admired, adopted, and popularized by many, including Alexander the Great and the Romans. Romans were also instrumental in spreading Greek culture around the world. So the during these periods, so the roots of Greek culture before it established itself in Greece thrived on the Greek mainland and the Aegean islands. The fall of these earlier cultures and aftermath is known as the Dark Age. So Greek culture began to develop during the geometric, Orientalism, and the Archeal period, which lasted from 900 to 480 BC. So during this time, the population of the city-states began to grow. So the concept of city-states came up. So Pan-Hellenic traditions were established, and the art and architecture began to reflect Greek knowledge. The early, high, and late classical periods in Greece occurred from 480 to 323 BC. During this period, Greece flourished. The police of Athens saw its golden age under the leadership of different leaders. Then you see, this period also occurs from the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC to the Greek defeat at the Battle of Actium in 30 BC. It marks the period of Greek culture across the Mediterranean region. So the Greek society consists of consists of families where important social organizations have gradually evolved from the idea of family. The institutional marriage plays also an important role in the society. The word family in Greece refers to a particular social group whose members are related by blood or marriage at different levels or in different forms or combinations. Greek food and beverages are famous all over the world, you know. So, so also the Greek incorporates fresh ingredients, among them garlic, onions, grapes, apples, dates, figs into variety of local dishes, some of which can be traced back to ancient Greece. Herbs and seasoning like mint form an important part of recipes, while olive oil is added to almost every dish. So wheat, rice, meat, and traditionally, but also chicken, pork, and beef and fish from the staple diet. So then Roman society came up, and then ancient Roman was the center of one of the largest and most powerful empires in the history. The Roman Empire conquered um, the Roman Empire conquered the whole Mediterranean region, with its center in the region of what is known as Italy, and spread its influence to the Middle East, North Africa, Western and Central Europe. So the ancient Romans, like the Greeks, influenced countries and civilizations in the coming centuries. Their language Latin became the basis for many other European languages. Governments and legal systems in the Western world were founded on Roman law. The ancient Romans were innovative and the first to build bridges, concrete roads, and a sewage system that took waste water away from the houses and homes. So these sewage systems, or the development of wastewater treatment channels, the that concept had came up from the Roman society. And in many societies, ancient and modern religion has performed a major role in their development. The Greek and the Roman Empire were no different. From the beginning, Roman religion was polytheistic, and from an initial array of gods and spirits, Rome added to this collection to include both Greek gods as well as a number of foreign cults. Then the fall of Roman Empire has also been linked to environmental factors, like factors by many historians. It is observed that the centuries during which the empire was built and flourished were warm, wet, and stable across most of the territory of the Romans conquered. So this is known as climate scientist. This is known to climate scientists as the Roman climate optimum from the circa 200 BC to 150 AD. In an agriculture economy, as you know, these conditions were a major boost. The population was increasingly, especially in city centers, yet still there was enough food to feed and everyone. The divide between the lifestyles of elites and the farmers or the workers was, though, enormous. From the middle of the second century, the climate became less reliable and all important annual Nile flood became erratic. So droughts and severe cold spells became very more common. So the climate optimum became much less optimal. The Roman Empire also, in its desire to conquer, was a catalyst to deforestation, both for the survival and everyday activities on cities like heating and building houses, as well as for military occupation. Rome was inconsiderate in its uses of nature's um, power, especially we can say wood. So then Indian society, has its or the roots in ancient Vedic culture. In 2000 BC. The Vedic civilization flourished between the 1500 BC and 500 BC on the Indo-Gangetic plains of the Indian subcontinent. We know Indo-Gangetic plains that starts along the course of river Ganga. So this civilization is the basis on which the foundations of Hinduism as well as Indian culture is connected. So the Vedic age was followed by the golden age of Hinduism and classical Sanskrit literature, the Mauryan Empire, and the Middle Kingdoms of India. Hinduism, commonly called Sanatan Dharma by Hindus, is generally considered to be the oldest major world religion still practiced today and first among the faiths of different dharmas. So Hinduism, no doubt, is characterized by diverse array of beliefs, systems, practices, and scripture. Just as we are discussing previous classes, so our culture is rooted to nature. During the day, many festivals, occasion, we worship the nature. We worship the god sun. We worship the god rain. We worship the god who are directly linked to different elements of nature. Like in the festival of Raja, we worship the Mother Earth. So like this, we our culture and society is much linked to environmental setups. So this civilization is the basis on which the foundation of Hinduism as well as the Indian culture is connected. The Vedic age was followed by golden age of Hinduism and classical Sanskrit literature, the Mauryan Empire, and the Middle Kingdom of India. So Hinduism, commonly called Sanatan Dharma by Hindus, is generally considered to be the oldest major world religion still practiced today and first among the different faiths of dharmas. So Hinduism is characterized by a diverse array of belief systems, practices, and scriptures. Hindu thought distinguishes itself by strongly encouraging tolerance for different beliefs, since temporal systems cannot claim sole understanding of the one transcended the truth. So to the person who follows this religious faith, the idea of a multifold path to achieve the ultimate truth has been an active force in defining the eternal dharmas. So Hinduism has inherently been an environmentally sensitive philosophy. So wherever we hurt the plants, wherever we hurt the animals, so you see there that we say that our religion is just not respected. So the Vedas or Upanishads, Puranas, and Smriti contain the earliest messages for preservation of environment and ecological balance. Nature or earth has been ingrained as a part of existence of life. Hinduism rests on the spiritual bedrock of the Vedas, hence Veda Dharma and their mystic issue, the Upanishads, as well as the teachings of many great Hindu gurus, through the ages. So many streams of thought flow from the six Vedic or Hindu schools, Bhakti sections, and Tantra agamic schools into the one ocean of Hinduism, the first of the Dhamma religions. The elements of nature have never been considered as hostile to be conquered or dominated, but in fact possessing their own personalities. Okay. In the ancient Indian philosophy, it is forbidden to exploit nature for luxury. So to live in harmony with nature and recognize that divinity prevails in all elements, including plants and animals. In the core philosophy, the saints, ascetics lived in the deepest of forests and mountains to be one with the eternal truth, thus signifying that existential questions are best understood within the cradle of a natural environment. So, ecology is an inherent part of a spiritual worldview in Hinduism. So, in Indian philosophy, as we know, change and flux are part and parcel of our existence, which includes the natural environment around us. But these changes are the ones that are intrinsically developed in the natural world by themselves and not by man-made regions. Indian society is diverse, unlike any other of the world's great civilizations. Virtually no generalizations can be made about Indian society for all of the nation's multifarious groups. The ethnic and linguistic diversity of Indian civilization is quite equivalent to the diversity of an entire continent like Europe. Indians as an identity um, would encompass vast number of different regional, social, and economic groups, each with different cultural practices. There are differences between social structures in the north and the south, especially in the realm of kinship of systems. Throughout the country and through the centuries, there has been the influx of different communities as refugees, as refugees, invaders, explorers, traders, and travelers, and brought along their own religious beliefs. It is composed of different religious groups, racial groups, and groups having cultural differences. So, religious differences are significant with the presence of the Hindu majority and minority like Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, Jains, Jews, Paris, Sikhs, Parsis, Sikhs, and practitioners of tribal religions all pride themselves on being unlike members of other faiths. Access to wealth and power varies, and vast differences in socio-economic status are evident everywhere. The poor and the wealthy coexist in urban and rural areas, living side by side. There are distinctions of class. Given the vast diversity of Indian society, the belief systems and rituals, customs of the country are as diverse and generalization is difficult. Still, there are certain themes or underlying principles of life that are widely accepted in India. Indian society is very old, complex, and plural. And in the long span of Indian history, various groups from different parts of the world entered into India, and they brought along their own socio-cultural and racial features. The concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world as family, also has a residue in the welcoming nature of this diverse culture. There are two main characteristics of Indian society, like its existence spans 5,000 years. It is also very complex and multidimensional in its nature and character. So the three prominent reasons for the complexity of Indian society are like immigrants from different corners of the world came at different periods of time, included the invaders, explorers, traders, travelers, and brought along their own religious beliefs. The immigrants were from different races with their own inherent qualities. The immigrants entered India with their native languages, traditions, and unique cultural elements. The ultimate result of these diverse cultural interactions was the emergence of a peculiar Indian society having three qualities like presence of different social groups, richness of Indian culture with various types of cultural elements, development of strong dynamism within Indian culture. Therefore, Indian society is not one dimensional but is composed of different social groups with differences in race, language, religion, etc. The most often noticed feature of Indian society is unity in diversity. Okay, India has emerged a stronger nation by welcoming various cultural, social, and ethnic elements. Assimilation of diversity has been the key feature of Indian civilization. Where different elements of society have been accommodated without letting them lose their separate identity. So we have got enough freedom to practice our own way of life. Unity in diversity has also provided backbone to several political and social movements, you know. So as we were discussing the Narmada Bachao Andolan, Chipko movement, like yesterday we were saying, Bishnoi movement, Gandhamardaram Bachao Andolan. So it's all for the environmental protection. So its core idea is unity without uniformity and diversity without fragmentation. So it is based on the notion that diversity enriches human interaction. So you see, if you are thinking of sustainability, then we have to have our economy, environment, and society in balance. So the intersection point where we stand is called the sustainability. Then another part of the environment is, or our culture is called traditional knowledge, or we can say traditional knowledge system, or TKDL, traditional knowledge digital library, that has been particularly being organized in the National Institute of Science, Communication and Research, NISCAR. So indigenous knowledge is something which have been there within the pool of folklore knowledge since the time we don't know. So indigenous knowledge is the wisdom generated by communities, groups, and societies over years of observation and experience of natural phenomena, and passed on from one generation to the other as part of lifestyle and customs and traditions. As more and more people and societies realize the deep rooted essence of traditional and indigenous wisdom, the question of patenting the same has also emerged. Since conventional intellectual property laws do not protect traditional knowledge, indigenous or traditional knowledge is demanding more attention in today's world. From the growing popularity of traditional herbal medicines in mainstream Western cultures to use of traditional methods for sustainable growth, the misuse of languages by certain toy companies, traditional knowledge has taken prominence in the recent years. With the rise of globalization and global trade in recent years, indigenous knowledge has become an increasingly prominent issue within international patent law. So the concept of ownership of knowledge and the patent law has its foundations in the Western concept. Traditional knowledge or knowledge, know-how, skills, and practices that are developed, sustained, and passed on from generations to generation within a community is often misused and appropriated and sometimes claimed through patents by individuals or companies for commercial gain outside of that community. So traditional knowledge, no doubt, is valuable and is most often not protected by conventional intellectual property systems simply because it usually never recorded or officially registered as it has been passed by word of mouth. Considering the specific challenges of protecting the traditional knowledge of indigenous groups, including often limited political power of indigenous peoples to represent their interests, legal scholars and activities have explored this area. So the issue is crucial to indigenous people for the following reason, like the wrongful legal claim by outside groups rather than the rightful owners of this knowledge, excluding the indigenous peoples from any associated matter. Again, for example, the legal claim over traditional yoga style and postures made by American teachers of yoga. So the projection of the traditional knowledge in a stereotypical manner, disrespecting its creation as a community contribution rather than individual members. The misuse and misinterpretation of indigenous cultural knowledge runs the risk of trivializing important customs and often undermines the validity and dignity of the host culture. Selective segmentation of the wisdom without the nuance of the ancient methods of approaching them. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People acknowledges and protects these concerns. Indigenous people have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions, as well as the manifestation of their science, technologies, and culture. The UN Declaration asserts that states must provide redress for the use of traditional knowledge used without the consent of indigenous people. In the past few years, efforts have been made for the expansion of intellectual property law to protect the traditional knowledge of indigenous people. Legal scholars have taken on this subject and proposed a number of legal options, such as the use of some legal systems to consider these cases or the employment of private protocols for detailing with indigenous communities. For example, Indian tribal communities are a storehouse of precious knowledge on herbs and forest products. We know the traditional that already discussing here. So one of the examples we know counter action to protect traditional knowledge has been initiated by the government of India in the recent years. It established the traditional knowledge digital library, as I was telling, a database of traditional knowledge. So also by the National Biodiversity Act 2002, there is a system with respect to um, as you know, under the Biodiversity Act 2002, Biodiversity Act 2002, we have the system of from farming people's biodiversity register. That is a document, particularly like a register we maintain the things. There will be maintained at the village level within the biodiversity management committee consisting of forest managing people, local sarpanchs or local vaidyas or village representatives, where there will be the documentation on the plant diversity, animal diversity, and as we know the what are the natural resources available, how is the landscape, what are the water sources. All these are documented along with the knowledge on the herbal practices or traditional values of medicinal plants, etc. So traditional knowledge digital library database of traditional knowledge. A major factor in the TKDL's success has been its translation of this indigenous knowledge. The traditional medicinal knowledge of India existed in languages like Sanskrit, Hindi, Arabic, Urdu, and Tamil. Now the TKDL project allows search ability in English, French, German, Japanese, and Spanish. Due to language barriers, this knowledge was not accessible to Western Patent Office. Providing a widely accessible record of traditional knowledge to prove to patent offices that this knowledge had previously existed is crucial in ensuring the legal protection of indigenous cultures. Okay, so traditional knowledge has played an important role in the conservation of biological or the properties of biological resources with respect to medicinal values or any uses in your socio-cultural having socio-cultural importance. So we know then biodiversity uh, refers to all the variety of life that can be found on Earth. Plants, animals, fungi, microorganisms, as well as the communities that they form and the habitats in which they live. So we see not only the biodiversity, the variety of life forms, it is also the variability I'm living on. So I always say that biodiversity not only the variety, it is also the variability. Like we see Homo sapiens or human being, each of some each species. But you see, each human being is not same as the other. All are having different characteristics. All are different from each other. So biodiversity is the certain form of two words like biological and diversity. The the Convention on Biological Diversity gives a formal definition of biodiversity. Biological diversity means the variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. So this includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystem. So we see at the biological integration level, the biodiversity is of three types. One is species diversity, another is one is genetic diversity, another is species diversity, and is the ecosystem diversity. So the genetic diversity means the variety and variability among the individual members of a single species. As I was discussing earlier, if you say Mangifera indica or mango is a species, but you see the varieties of mangoes, they are all different from each other, different characters, different sweetness, sourness, or their shape, size, color, etc. They are completely vary. So this constitutes of genetic diversity. But you see the mango plant, you see the jackfruit, you see the teak, you see they are different plants, so they are different species. But you see different ecosystems. You see some acornia, it grows in an aquatic ecosystem, but you see a mango tree, it grows in a terrestrial ecosystem. A mango tree does not grow in the water bodies. So how the plant are adapted different setups of environment that consist of your ecosystem diversity. So biodiversity is not one identity or only the sum of all ecosystems, species, and genetic material. In fact, it represents the variability within all ecosystems, species, and genetic material. So it can be distinguished from all the expressions, all the from it can be distinguished from the expression biological resources, which refer to the tangible components of ecosystems. Biological resources are real entities, a particular species of bird, a wheat variety growing in field, oak, wood, etc. While biological diversity is rather an attribute of life. The variety of bird species, the genetic variability of wheat around the world, forested, etc. UNESCO contributes to efforts to counter the erosion of global diversity, both biological and cultural. Recognizing that together, cultural and biological diversity are vital building blocks of sustainable development. UNESCO seeks to develop innovative approaches to promote understanding of the linkages between biodiversity and cultural diversity, to raise awareness of the essential role of cultural diversity in sustaining and creating biological diversity, to support the meaningful inclusion of local and indigenous knowledge in biodiversity conservation and management, to mobilize cultural diversity to counter biodiversity loss and to address ethical dimensions of biodiversity. Biological diversity is often understood at three levels, like species diversity refers to the variety of different species, plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms such as palm trees, elephants, or bacteria. Genetic diversity, already I was saying that corresponds to the variety of genes contained in plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms. So it occurs within a species as well as between species. For example, um, you see different types of sheep, different types of goats, varieties are there. As I was saying, even you see the simple example I was telling previously, or I just sativa, the rice. Rice has different varieties, different ecosystem of growing parameters. And also rice are have the genetic character to adapt to different environmental setups, salt tolerant or water submergence like this. So ecosystem diversity refers to all the different habitats or plants that exist like tropical or temperate forest, hot and cold deserts, wetlands, rivers, mountains, coral reefs, etc. Each ecosystem corresponds to a series of complex relationships between biotic components such as plants and animals and biotic non-living components, which include sunlight, air, water, minerals, and nutrients. So biodiversity consists of biotic as well as abiotic components. So some of the issues, as we know, related to national migration or environmental justice. So transmigrant environmental justice. As also I have given you hint on environmental justice, how we are providing to the others. So human beings, no doubt, through civilizations have not been restricted to one space. There are examples of travelers and explorers and explorers who choose to go beyond their place of belonging. So, like we say, native place. I am belong to by native. I am a native of Odisha or to the district of Kendrapada or Cuttack. But I also migrate to different corners of the planet, like America, Germany, or Japan. So, if I migrate, so how these affect our environmental components? So, like you see, every day, lakhs of people migrate from one corner of the country to another. You see the journey from with a train, buses, etc. So that mobility, no doubt, also takes into account to the consumption of fossil fuels. So these fossil fuels, when burned, releases the carbon dioxide, other greenhouse gases. So there are examples of travelers, explorers who choose to go beyond their place of belonging to explore other societies and cultures. The assumption that people will live their lives in one place according to one set of national and cultural norms. So in countries with impermeable national borders and does not hold true, especially in the modern era where travel and relocation has become so achievable. In the 21st century, more and more people will belong to two or more societies at the same time. This is referred to as transnational migration. Transnational migrants work and express their political interests in several contexts and forums rather than in their nation's state of origin or belonging. Some establish roots in a host country, maintain strong homeland ties, and belong to religious and political movements that span the globe. These allegations or these type of relations as not opposing to one another, but a combination of ways to integrate their roots with their present. So, to explain with an example of migrants like Gujarati pursuing the American dream for the over the past 20 years, Indian immigrants from Gujarat in India have moved from Western India has to rental apartments complexes in northeastern Massachusetts and then to their own homes in subdivisions outside Boston. So they have adjusted to the new lifestyle and work as sub urban dwellers. Their children attend schools and they get together to build religious congregations. The same can be applied to South Indian Tamil immigration to New Jersey or Silicon Valley after the digital revolution. You see, most people how they have settled in from Odisha, they have also settled in Bangalore, Delhi, because so this how somehow this migration of people from the rural areas to the urban areas have helped the urbanization growth or industrialization grow in a faster rate. So putting a lot of impact or the demand on the resources available there, maybe a clean drinking water. So a closer look, however, reveals the people are pursuing Gujarati or Tamil dreams as well. So they send money back to India to open business or improve family homes and farms. They work closely with religious leaders to establish groups in the United States to strengthen religious life in their homeland and to build a global Hindu community. So transcending or inheriting national or coming across the national border or political boundary. So when you think about the environment, your mind might have been of with the images of rambling rivers, peaceful woodlands, or scenic mountains, but it is not as such. So it is not environment mean that a scenic place or a forest land or a river scape or the sea beach like that. So, however, a broader definition of environment is the surrounding or conditions in which a person lives. So if I am inside a room, so the interior or indoor room environment is like I should think of. So by this definition, the environment would include our home, place of work, like you say, classroom environment, like you see the working environment, schools and community parks. So these are the places you spend your time, and they play a big role in your overall health, happiness, and well-being. So those involved in the movement called environmental justice feel that a healthy environment is a necessary component of a healthy life. The United States Environmental Protection Agency defines environmental justice as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of race, color, national origin, or income with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. In simple terms, any person's health should not suffer because of the environment where we live, work, and play or learn. The concept of environmental justice began as a movement in the 1980s due to the realization that a disproportionate number of polluting industries, power plants, and waste disposal areas were located near low income or minority communities. The movement was set in place to ensure fair distribution of environmental burdens among all people, regardless of the background. So examples of environmental burdens that may be considered under the umbrella of environmental justice cover many aspects of community life. Environmental burdens can include any environmental pollutant, hazard, or disadvantage that compromises the health of a community or its residents. For instance, one of the most important environmental justice issues is inadequate access to healthy food by all. Certain communities, particularly lower income or minority communities, often lack sources of healthy and affordable foods. So then comes to the come to the topic of environmental policy. We know, no doubt, environmental policy is the commitment of an organization or a country or a state to the laws, regulations, and other policy mechanisms concerning environmental issues. It is useful to consider that environmental policy compromises two major terms like environment and policy. So environment refers to the physical ecosystems, but can also take into consideration the social dimension, quality of life, health, and an economic dimension like resource management, biodiversity. Policy can be defined as a course of action or principle adopted or proposed by a government, party, business, or individuals. So the environmental policy no doubt focuses on problems arising from human which retracts onto human society by having a negative impact on human values such as good health or clean and green environment. As yesterday we are discussing health and human health and environment. So how human health is affected due to unhygienic conditions in the environment or unhygienic conditions arising of the bad practices or not proper maintaining of the urban streets or sewage systems. So policy can be defined as a course of action or principle adopted or proposed by a government, party, business, or individual. Thus, environmental policy focuses on problems arising from human, which retracts onto human society by having a impact on human values such as good health or the clean and green environment. So environmental issues generally include, as we say, pollution of essential elements like air and water, management of resources, ecosystem and development, maintenance of biodiversity, etc. The protection of natural resources, wildlife, and endangered species. Policies concerning energy or regulation of toxic substances affecting human animal life, including pesticides and many types of industrial waste, are part of the topic of environmental policy. Environmental policy, I know, as we are discussing, we also under this we have framed many environmental laws. Like we say, Air Act 1981, Water Act 1974, Wildlife Protection 1972, Environment Protection Act and 86, Biodiversity Act 2002. Already we have discussed. So this policy aims to direct and oversee human activities and thereby prevent harmful effects on the biophysical environment and natural resources. The policy also ensures that changes in the environment do not have harmful effects on humans. So we have to see that the policy is not having the any issue or impact or negative impact on the human health or the impact on the societies. Environmental issues generally addressed by environmental policy also focus on preservation of natural resources for future generations. Relatively recent environmental policy has also attended to the communication of environmental issues. Environmental policy instruments are tools used by governments for implementing environmental policies. A government may use a number of different types of instruments, economic incentives or market-based instruments such as environmentally related taxes, sales tax, educational sales or environmental sales, charges and subsidies, emissions trading, other tradable permit systems, like we say carbon credit business. Carbon credit business we are discussing. So carbon credit business means, as we say, developed countries are releasing more and more greenhouse gas or carbon dioxide to the environment, but they don't have the sufficient land for the plantation. So what they will do, they will provide the fund for the development of the forest or the forest protection or afforestation of the open land or wastelands in developing underdeveloped countries. So that was a carbon credit business. So it has been on the trend because of the rising greenhouse gas emissions from industrial resources or from the developed countries. So then deposit refund mechanisms, environmental labeling laws, licenses, and economic property rights. Okay. For example, the European Union emission trading scheme is an example of a market-based instrument to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Several instruments are sometimes combined in a policy mix to address a certain environmental problem. Furthermore, a combination of different policies may give greater flexibility in policy compliance and reduce uncertainty so as to the cost of such compliances. So environmental impact assessments are conducted to compare impacts of various policy alternatives. As we know, from 1995 onwards, EIA has been compulsory to for the approval of any road, railway, or any industrial projects, because with the fast-growing industries, man tried to neglect the component of environment. They didn't consider the biological or abiotic components environment when we are going for industrialization or developing any project. So EIA has been compulsory to your EIA report along with social hearing or public hearing, sitting with the people, taking their views, etc., is also most important. To compare impacts on various policy alternatives. Moreover, it is assumed that policymakers make rational decisions based on the merits of the project. Market-based instruments are policy instruments that use markets, price, and other economic variables to provide incentives for polluters to reduce or eliminate negative environmental externalities. So, market-based instruments seek to address the market failure of externalities such as pollution by incorporating the external cost of production or consumption activities through taxes or charges on processes or products, or by creating property rights and facilitating the establishment of a proxy market for the use of environmental services. It has been observed that political and economic factors often lead to environmentally destructive decisions in the long run. To counter the same, activist groups, community pressure, and citizen groups are often cited as a good example to curb misuse and exploitation by state machineries. So then policy process cycles, as we know. So for PDA cycle generation, plan, do, check, action. So we have to we are planning something, we are doing something, then we are checking with what are the errors, what are the learnings, lessons. Then plan, do, check, and then come to action again with our corrective measures. That's why the policy is also the same. We are framing policies or implementing policies. Then we are seeing the or experimenting the policies. What are the drawbacks? Again, we are correcting it. So then coming to the summaries what we have discussed till now. Like we say, environmental sociology or society environment is typically defined as the sociological study of the societal environmental interactions. Although this definition immediately presents the problem of integrating human cultures with the rest of the environment. The modern societies have an inherent component of materialistic usage and benefit, unlike ancient societies where needs were in with survival in the natural world. The problems faced in preserving our environment are definitely concerned with an inadequate behavior due to inadequate values or lacking awareness or sensitivity. Consequently, strategies of problem solving should be based on information, values, cultural roots, enlightenment, and appeals to morals in order to generate the desired behavior voluntarily rather than as common forced principles. To effectively implement restoring environment, political will, and regulations are also expected to be an appropriate requirement and act as a propeller to individual and society's consciousness. Strengthening environmental awareness along environmental regulations with a sense of sustainable development are the preferred strategies. So, in modern societies, behavior and responses for results are more and more determined by the quality of institutions and subsequent incentive structures, less by quality of motives and individual morals. Though it is an irony that modern societies to encourage individual freedom, the valuable traditional knowledge or wisdom or skills and practices that were and are developed, sustained, and passed on from generation to generation within a community is often appropriated. In some cases, individuals or companies outside of that community also claim this knowledge through patents. Environmental justice is also a new term to be understood in the contemporary socio-cultural landscape of developing nations. As I was saying, how environmental justice we are providing, like the thermal power stations are running on coal taken from the coal mine areas. So the people living in and around the coal mines, they are affected with the pollution, or they are around the thermal power station, they are affected. So if they are affected and we are enjoying electricity SCs in the cities, so are we justifying them? Are we accountable for their life or their security, to their health? No, in no way we are related, or directly we are not related. So how we have to environmentally justify them with clean water, clean air, or healthy environment. So developing nation, it means that the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. It aims at protecting human existence within the purview of survival in the new norms of the world, while simultaneously giving importance to sustainability and awareness. The importance of indigenous knowledge can be best understood with the example of agriculture. Rice, wheat, and other crops are proof of man's inquisitiveness about nature and consistent effort to synchronize human needs of hunger and shelter with nature's basket. These crops were not found as ready to grow packages in forests, but a result of ancient communities' knowledge and on seed types and weather conditions needed to grow the same. So, what are found in the forest are wild plants, out of which communities of men and women over generations have bred races of several food and cash crops. So these communities have bred out the wild plants of the forest, which are the basis of world's agriculture. Like we say, domesticating the crops. Okay. So how we have domesticated the how we have developed agriculture practices. First, we were in hunting, and then we are dependent on forest. So we learn the plants about the plants, or we have gain knowledge when the plant is germinated, when how the plant grows, how the fruit is which fruit is tasty, which fruit is poisonous, or which plant is which plant leaves is edible, or which plant's leaf is used as medicine, can be used as medicine. So these type of all traditional knowledge we have gained. So so we have tried to domesticate the agriculture as well as the animals. So the land bred by farming communities were and are the foundation material of modern plant breeding and global food security. The concept of environmental justice began as a movement in the 1980s due to the realization that a disproportionate number of polluting industries, power plants, and waste disposal areas were located near low income or minority communities. The movement was set in the place to ensure fair distribution of environmental burdens among all people, regardless of their background. The best way to begin our understanding of indigenous knowledge is by considering its source, indigenous people and their societies. So let us have a 5-minute break. Then we'll meet at 7:20. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Mm. Welcome back. So let us discuss another topic that is called environmental ethics and resource management. Okay, environmental ethics and resource management. As you know, um, already I have discussed about the value education or environmental ethics in the previous classes. So let us have it in detail. So you know that discussing the ethics and management plan of action in various schemes engaged with the resource executive maintenance of common property or pool of resources in India is very important. This encompasses supportable assets administered beneath the universal rural community notion. Possession must not directly or ideally be used as a whole to the community, not by single individual. So may be called as commune of communes or property, and it does not belong to personal consumers in nation. So the procedure of removing all power must start on. There are many issues to common property rights, as it is a catastrophe to common and public goods are managed by state government and private agencies for the conservation and uses. But the degradation of ecological and environmental crisis may deepen due to improper management of various natural resources such as forest land use, water, addition of pollutants with modernization and affect the climate change, greenhouse effect, ozone layer depletion, and so on. So also we have discussed the environmental issues under this climate change and other issues. It is the only change which deals with development of society from top to bottom approaches for profitable economic model. So the part of ecology study joins together nature, human and biotic flows in evolution, connect the human with living but not human and natural interactions. For the resource management for a common conservation strategy, we should have clear prioritization of various tasks to be taken to strengthen the functions, estimating accurate schedule to get these simulations, calculations, through relevant experimental and theoretical models in environmental crisis and human ethics for conserving environmental and developing proper risk awareness. We have nature of developing concrete buildings, towns, and modern cities with all social comforts for living, generating lots of waste, living along with generating lot of waste and pollution problems, which are related to our lifestyle or related to our living cultures. So there are some thinkers, or we say think tanks, which reject the various theories which are inclined for human behavior to favor one group or opposition of others group opinion of human life forms of inherent value. So humanity is natural world which is sincere, genuine, and intelligent ideas for obtaining their own consciousness. So we sincerely use this self-consciousness by some of the sociologists for finding the inherent capabilities by bouncing back of questions from inner self about satisfaction in this concrete, non-ethical world. There is a best method in which Earth is treated as the function as a whole and has its own religious self in Earth. It gives us satisfaction as a part of some of the supportable and financial approaches of energy and green science for the sustainable, progressible, and healthy environment. There must be development of human race and non-human ecology to support each other in its complex nature of human race and non-human ecology to support each other in its complex nature with inorganic and organic substances of environment and ecology for sustainable living. Deep ecology is termed as sustainability of humanity in the inner self with beliefs of conservation for today, tomorrow, and in terms of an ecosystem. It is also called as surface ecology and helpful in generating consciousness among all living species for prosperity, and conservation of ecology in all respects. So, so you know what are the issues relating to common? We know that जो सबका है वो किसका नहीं है. When we are seeing the roads, public roads in India, you must have seen how people are taking care. So because everybody is going on the road, but no one is conscious of the road conditions. They are throwing everything what they like. There is no restriction. So common pooled resource or CPR or common property resource are the resources which are utilized by all living organisms and may be used by village land, watershed drainage, any bare land, community forest, and wasteland. Common pool resources usually serve as important basis of livelihood earning poor and developing nations, with mostly communities depending upon public ownership land and they affect the common pool resources. Degradation in the common pool resource has been observed by only 1% from the last 25 years. Common pool resource is the land showing open access, state owned land, and publicly acquired ownership. Therefore, public rights undergo similar property disputes within the common people using it. These are also additionally responsible for resource degradation due to market failure, unsustainable exploitation, population growth, institutional failure, developmental effects, etc. The management of a common pool resource is done by different um, like denationalization, state-run agencies, municipal-owned areas under development, state and public ownership land, national highways are to be managed by strategic planning and use of data-based framework. Okay. Then demutualization is helpful when the resource is very less. Ecological problems develop due to deviation from personal and societal communal aims. It was shown by some studies that some agencies are not able to maintain common pool resources due to fast growth of population of livestock and human mix. There is need to develop the local pool of local communities, persons involved in agriculture or tribal populations, skilled scientists, government agencies, non-governmental organizations, then state-owned authorities, making a common platform for detailed planning, causes of reduction, the problem for shortage and shrinkage of common man's property, or we can say common pool resources. So, to have the issues addressed, we should have some plans. Like there is no knowledge-based pool about the. So there are some other issues related to common pool resource, which we say that there is no knowledge-based pool about the scientific and sustainable use of common property of a natural resource. Local people only using the forested, marginal lands, and fellow land facing great shrinking of this area under common pool resource in India. So areas near the villages and other common property has diverse types of timber, non-timber, medicinal uses with the exploitation of reserves. So local people and other population should also mobilize common pool resource in an effective way, as the person with knowledge or skilled worker community must be for successful implementation of policy and framework by government. So, like the same thing have been framed in the National Biodiversity Act 2002. So, the management of natural resources or bioresources has been changed through from the top at the country level policy making to the village level individual. That we say at the national level, National Biodiversity Authority, then at the state level, state biodiversity boards. Under the state biodiversity boards, you have the biodiversity management committees, BMCs, and each biodiversity management committee have the people's biodiversity register. So in the biodiversity management committee, we have the local forest policymakers, divisional forest officer, rangers, foresters, or forest guards. We have the local sarpanch or ward member of the village, herbal practitioners. We have the vaidyas. So all. So then with this biodiversity management committee, whatever the resources are being diverted or exploited in the forest areas will be registered, and the benefit sharing mechanism is also built or is also placed, so that no one will be exploited of the values and the profits coming out of the exploitation of the natural resources. So it will be shared with the local people through the biodiversity management committee. So there will be no exploitation of the natural resources by the even pharmaceutical companies or herbal drug making companies who take the resources from the forest areas. Then with this concept of resource management along with the people of the locality, so we have developed many mechanisms of joint forest management or joint resource management. Like we have different committees: eco development committee, etc, joint forest JFMC, joint forest management committee, forest development agencies. So many working functional groups are performing at the field level to conserve or to develop the forest, to protect our natural resources. The resources, no doubt, are public, and whatever things else that we need in order to protect the resources are all in place, or that can be planned from the village level up to the even national level, or even at the international level, according to the Convention on Biological Diversity, or CBD 1992, that was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So all activities in our activity list needs to have a resource assigned to it. Some distinctiveness of resources is particularly significant in formative impulses, regions of using it for conservation purpose. So resources are used on basis of consumption and their requirement. The forest resources are trees, herbs, and some grasses that are widely used for medicines, raw materials for timber, paper, and pulp, fuel wood, ropes, and other resources may be flour, honey, pollen, birds, as condiments, spices, and flavoring agents, and other aesthetic points of use. Many local edible rhizomes of leaves, flowers, they are also used as green vegetables. The forest, wildlife, minerals, food, soil, air are the resources widely used to replace their values and use in life and its betterment. Some people can be given incentives to sustain these valuable resources. They fell for correct they fell for correct sustainable use, and but they consider money more with their part of resource possessions, and not willing for the instant resourceful or village area could benefit together from the improved micro environment with no reduction in the benefits available for others. So that's why the resource may be used as private goods, toll goods, common pool goods, public goods, and the services provided by each of them. So we should always rise above the personal interest and go for the interest of the community, interest of the state, interest of the nation, or interest of the future, that we say sustainable future or sustainable development. Then the difficulties for resource management definitely occur due to non-availability of resources in remote areas. If you see drinking water facility or accommodation, comfortable accommodation in the forest areas. So, or we can say availability of the natural gas for cooking. So maybe costly, maybe economic effect, or you can say we have to invest some amount. So instead, people use the freely available resource in the forest areas. So that's why the ecotourism concept has come up to share the some economy from tourists who are coming to the natural areas with the local communities through through the public-private partnership, or you can say, um, or within the involvement or the participation of the local forest authorities. So the difficulties for resource management occurs due to non-available resource in remote areas, poor transport, or frequency of public transport to the rural remote areas is also one of the issues. Tribal population having ignorance, or they are not aware of the uh, day-to-day incidents happenings. Unemployed persons so are exploited these exploited the resources at fast pace. So it is also observed that It is also observed that there is no check to by local governing bodies. Their non-participation of actions as well as owner-based and government-based improvements actions are also lacked. So then tools and techniques for estimating the activity resources, as we know, sometimes when we are working in the Satkosia Wildlife Division in Odisha, under the joint forest management efforts, okay, for the as a naturalist from biodiversity specialist, for these type of documentation or micro planning at the village level, we are making a we are making social maps. We are making social maps like in a village, a man or woman, what he or she does in 24 hours, how his time is spent, what he does, how he interacts with the natural resources um, during different seasons, like winter season, summer season, and rainy season. Because as you know, in India, principally we find three seasons. The availability of water resource is different, or even so, we see the vegetation dynamics affects our professions. So what they do, how they interact, in which time, or and why they are interacting with the natural resources more, instead of not being self-employed or not going for other earning options. So what is the background reason, what are the background problems are there? So there are some social mapping, natural resource mapping, and man animal conflict mapping. I can show you tomorrow in the class how these maps are developed to understand the um, people's interaction with the natural resources. What we say, particularly nowadays, man animal conflict is on rise. Whether animals or wildlife has entered human habitat, or human has entered into the habitat of natural animals. So who is entering? If you particularly say, then as a as giving justice to the all living beings, or being ecocentric, not anthropocentric, I can say that human has entered the sphere of wildlife. They are disturbing their habitat, they are exploiting the food resources that are should be taken by animals. If we take the case of elephant, man and elephant, human elephant conflict is on the rise in India. So each and every other day, we see the newspaper headlines, or the news headlines in the in print and electronic media, that elephant had died due to the hunting or electrocution, or elephant are damaging, they are trampling the agricultural fields of farmers. So they are running after the elephants with weapons or fire. So man-animal conflict, or every other day we say elephant has killed the or trampled the old man when he was gone to the orchard for collecting mangoes or watching his agricultural fields. So these type of incidents are coming up each and every day because of this man-animal conflict. So definitely, we know elephants need large movement corridors. Even 5,000, 500, 1,000 kilometer length corridors, they can move freely. They can move from Athwar forest to even Jharkhand, from Jharkhand even to Chhattisgarh, in Chhattisgarh to Koraput, or even the southern Odisha, or even to Kendujhar. So they move across a walking overnights, or in search of food, in search of suitable habitat. Particularly in summer, they face a lot of problem with water availability. So if you see, they can move 1,000 and 500 or more kilometers of length. So definitely they will face the artificial structures like a road, or like you can say railway lines, or we can say agricultural fields developed by human beings. So obviously they will interact, they will come face up with the human society. So definitely, with the increase of human population, we are encroaching the natural areas. You can see the Bhubaneswar city. It was once upon a time, if you go to 40 years back, it was completely a forest area, almost a dense forest. People were not even eager to take any land on the Bhubaneswar, even near the Bhubaneswar airport, because there at that time there was no demand on the land, or like the urban structures or city state development was not fast. So, but you see now it is very difficult to get even a few square feet land in Bhubaneswar. So this demand has gone so off. So we have restricted the Chandaka wildlife habitat, where elephants were many. Chandaka was famous for the elephants. We have read in our childhood with the books. Chandaka is famous for elephants. But now you see how many elephants are there in Chandaka, or how they are moving across from Chandaka to Athagod or Athagod to Satkosi Angul. So their movement has been restricted. So whenever they are moving out, so they are facing up with the human being, and we are getting the human animal conflict or casualties of death. So this way we have to be environmentally sensitive, ethically sound to deal with these issues and challenges coming up day to day. Then you see some bottom up estimating. This means of contravention down, multifaceted activity into pieces and operating out the resource assignments for every part. It is a procedure of estimating entity as a resource require or cost, and then totaling these together to approach up with a total approximation. Bottom up estimating is a very accurate means of estimating, given all the estimates of all the schedule actions labels are accurate, correct, and however it takes a significant quantity of time to carry out bottom up estimating, because every action have to be assessed and predicted precisely to be incorporated in the bottom up computation. Alternate analysis means bearing in brain more than a few dissimilar options for how you allocate resources. This may include unreliable counts of possessions as well as the variety of resources you may use. A lot of times there is extra way to achieve an activity, and substitute or alternative analysis helps to make a decision making making the possibilities. So expert judgments means bringing the experts who have completed any kind of work previously or receiving their opinion on what resources are required. So in print estimating data, which is incredible, that project research managers in a group of industries used to help them outline how many resources are needed, and they rely on various published articles, books, or online offline journals and periodicals that help to collect the data, analyze the data and facts. So publish reliable data after estimation from other people's projects also, like we said, some reference materials. So we see many types of GIS softwares or project development and management software such as Microsoft projects or many other software will frequently have features which will assist project managers, researchers, students, scientists to estimate resource requirements and constant which find the most excellent combination of assignments for the venture. So these type of management activities for resource conservation should be ordered, and efficient operation and time management practices are desired. The joint forest management and possessions consist of monetary funds, skilled human resources for forest and other resources, scientific and cultural methods of manufacturing of goods based on these resources, much domain or dominance with innovative ideas and technological programs, program-based ideas and functions of information technology taken into ground, relative management, managing conservation needs. It was observed that smaller and more comprehensive the activity, the greater the accurateness or accuracy and cost of this technique and practice. The principle of developing natural reserve or any kind of development and administration for bringing together citizens, processes, and various scientific and theoretical tools to achieve common objectives. So it follows the methodology in resource conservation during environmental crisis. That is one of the effective fundamentals of managing any of forest, water, and other natural resources and their possessions. It deals with the framework of many activities and techniques to get focus on measuring resources to a certain extent, and that act as a driving force to have conservation strategies. So we must know all key elements during crisis to avoid the mistake. So we have techniques and some characteristics of management of resources. We should be key for vision. We should have capabilities like planning and preparation, finding possible drawbacks, problems in working conditions, and research at pilot scale for resource management. Teamwork of each member involved with such um, um, research, so prepare finding possible drawbacks, problems in working conditions, and research a pilot scale for resource management. Teamwork of each member of the group involved with such programs enable confidence. Great management experts tells that managing a resource in success is success of being human, being an human, and essential to successful running of a society or community, that each human being puts his right way, or we say the work for conserving and putting efforts for sustainable resource management. So each individual shows their willingness for the conservation of resources, and teamwork is done beautifully to attain success if we are doing the work with strong and clear priorities for project or resource. As I have already told you that if you want to do something, you start from the doorstep itself. When we are coming out of the home, I should think about what I should not do or what I should do for the betterment of the environment. Should I use public transport or should I use my personal vehicle? Should I use my bicycle within the 10-kilometer 5 km radius, or I should use the bike? So it is your judgment, your activity that predicts or determines the future of our environment. So that's why everything starts from the doorstep itself when we are coming out. As I was saying, whether I want to use the polythene bag or don't want to use one. If I want to use, I will go as such with open hand to bring with polythene the rations or groceries. But if I don't want to use polythene, I want a safer planet, I should take with my a bag always in my vehicle or cycle, so that anything I bring from market, I bring it within bag. So that concept avoids the environmentally harmful substances to come into the um, environment. That harmful substance will not come to our environment, or will not face up managing those waste. As we say, saying that solid waste management has been a challenge in the urban areas, particularly plastic waste or polythene waste, etc. So if you will not use, if you will deny the shopkeeper not to take the poly bags, so why shopkeeper will give? I will say that I will not take. The shopkeeper not forcefully give me. As you demand, they give, and that cost is also brought from your pocket, because the cost of getting polythene or any poly bag is taken from the consumer itself. But we don't know it. In disguise, it goes from our pocket, because where from the shopkeeper will they bring it? They'll take from the consumer pocket. So that demand, that pressure, or that impact is on our economy, our environment, and our society. Ultimately, if each individual pays for the polythene manufacturing or puts a demand, so industries will grow, polythene industry will grow, they will manufacture to give you some goods and services with the polythene. So, but if you stop use, then it's okay. So it is on our behavior and our living style, what we want, what we don't want, that determines the futuristic approach of our environment, or that determines the sustainable development to what extent we can achieve. So each individual shows their willingness for the conservation resources, as teamwork is done beautifully to attain success if we are doing the work with strong and clear priorities for project or our environmental management. Uh, Resource management is the process of using a common resource, and it is natural and more efficient way, which includes tangible resources including labor resource, labor goods, machinery, tools, and other equipments, adding ideas, case studies, and physical resources to increase business. So then another point of discussion is social ecology. That as the recent environmental issues are examining the limits of current management approaches and increasing the demand for innovative approaches that integrate with traditional disciplinary boundaries. So practitioners, scholars, and policymakers are encouraging increased integration of natural and social sciences to develop new approaches that address the variety of ecological and social impacts of modern environmental issues. Social ecology, no doubt, is one such approach, as it offers a compelling way for improved environmental management through the application of transdisciplinary and uh, a resilience concept. Social ecology was established in late 1980s. Social ecology is the reflection of humanity like an individual living in the Mother Earth as its own home. No matter it provides a beautiful ecosystem and interactions, but should have arrangement of various organisms, including humans, in ranking of evolution with similarities, complex behavior and diversity in living organisms. Um, so social ecology may refer to functions, properties, activities, and structure between our societies with system of Mother Earth. So social ecology, no doubt, is a political, ethical, and community-based approach to today's social and environmental problems. Environmental problems that is completely linked with the our consumerism society. Now today's society is consumerism. Uh, so the life or the value of the human being or the um, status of a human being determined by how he consumes, not how he does not consume. If I am taking a car, or I am taking a some um, apartment, or I am taking some regular flights, or I am taking some regular other high quality products like Apple iPhone or some high branded materials, watch or dresses. So my social status, I say it is high. But indirectly, when we are going for consumerism or we are maintaining a social status, no doubt we are consuming more means you are putting more pressure on industrial products. Industrial products. Car is manufactured, the car parts are manufactured from industries. So industries, they use the electricity. They use the electricity which comes from the national thermal power stations. Thermal power stations use the coal. Coal is being used taken from the coal mine areas. So for which a lot of transport is required. So it is a chain by which you are by consumerism, by maintaining your high level of consumption, you are putting high level of carbon footprint or ecological footprint on the environment. So that social ecology, we say, is a political, ethical, community-based approach to today's social and environmental problems. So as you go for that, you go for more environmental problems. You are producing more waste. You are producing more demand on the resources. That demand on resources goes to the forest areas or the mining to do more mining. So social ecology defined as the text on the responsibility of evoking, elaborating, and giving a ethical content to the natural core of society and humanity. So our social ecology is much more important. It is having much more importance in dealing with the issues, challenges, and also bringing out the solutions. So prevention is better than cure. That statement who had given, no doubt, how much thought he had put. So why to go for solution? Why not to prevent it from the doorstep? So always we should try to prevent, because when you're going for solution, also you face many challenges. So to solve a problem, we face another problem. So that problem becomes multiple times, and it is very becomes very difficult to manage for the policymakers or authority. So that's why we have to also invest in invest in more economy, and that economic investment, where from it will come be brought, where from the government will take, it will take from the our pocket as in the form of revenue, in the form of tax, or in the forms of goods and services tax. So that's why social ecology or prevention is better than cure. That attitude should be with everybody. So no, then we can say that nobody is free from the hierarchy in this world and ready to attain a rank for the relationship among each other in the life forms. So a rank in society can bring retransformation and construction of social ecology or behavior. Understanding the unwillingness of political parties to social and environmental issues depending with time. Politics and some democratic ideas may promote the various social and environmental values based on um, some some political party to social and environmental issues depending with time. So politics and some democratic ideas may promote the various social and environmental values based issues and to generate an equilibrium or harmony among communities and earth as a whole. Social ecology should not give rise to environmental and ecological problems, various kinds of pollution, damage to biodiversity, climate change, and addition of synthetic, cancerous, non-biodegradable things within inactivities. Communal ecologists consider things go as per economy. Political interference with ecological studies or environments which focus on the problems and their possible outcome symptoms are the survival of culture, society, environment, biodiversity, ecology of basic man and animals in this ever increasing competition for technology, weapons, global dominance, stability in growth and reduction in depth and environment. Therefore, Western philosophy shows that domination of natural earth occur from these social relationships. Very simple, we can say, when we are trying to defend our country from the enemies, or we are trying to keep us protected with weapons, artilleries, aircrafts, or like that, with when not having good relationship with our neighbor countries. You say Russia and Ukraine not having good relationships, or Israel and Palestine is having not good relationship, or India Pakistan not having good relationship, or Bangladesh India is not having good relationship, or India China is not also having good relationship. That social imbalance, we can say, or disbelieving on each other, or that leads to manufacturing of defense goods. So defense goods are manufactured more means we have to depend industrially to produce more in a short time over a faster rate. That will indirectly also go in generating greenhouse gas emissions. Or you see the from the weapons used or even the wars, they also generate a lot of pollutants into the environment. So nuclear pollution, as the other one country is threatening with the other, they are also threatening not the life and security of other country. Also, they are going to damage the environment for hundreds of years. That has happened, like Japan's Hiroshima and Nagasaki. People will impaired, vegetation will not grow, the soil, water will have the radioactive elements for a longer period of time, hampering our environment, and not safe to use even the water, even the fish growing in that area, even the plants growing in that area. Somehow we are putting our environment danger. Putting environment danger means we are also putting our life in danger. So then we can say if this social ecology goes in this way, then obviously then our future is going to be in danger. Not only future of us, the future of the coming generation will be in danger. So due to this increased understanding in the past 2 decades, the social ecology systems approach has begun to shift from research to practice, because firstly, the understanding that humanity is basically dependent on nature is no longer a hidden scientific acknowledgement, but is a widely recognized understanding that our life is completely based, our humanity completely based on nature. We have to understand it, we have to respect it, and we have to take care for the nature. As we have seen how climate change is affecting the life and property due to frequent occurrence of cyclones. It is causing a huge economic loss, revenue loss to a country if a strong cyclone happens or hits any country. Secondly, the need for way out to various sustainability challenges has increased the contact and cooperation across different disciplines and between science and society. Thirdly, researchers are also increasingly using various systems for their scientific objective to better understand complex systems. Finally, if you see, the conception of social ecological system is starting to influence policy and decision making process. So all national and international levels policymakers are now considering the social ecological connection. So how our society is linked to ecology or environment, and how each individual linked to environment, and how each individual linked to society. So, but to increase these efforts and to make them more productive, there is a need to push um, a change in research approaches and better engagement between science and society in the near future. Firstly, there needs to be an improved understanding of the social ecological interactions between regions and developed organizations to govern them. Although regionally focused research is often useful, regions cannot be treated as totally separate units, as what happens in one place can significantly affect the other. Secondly, more efforts are needed to better understand these slow processes that has a major impact on socio-ecological systems, be the changing cultures or norms of the or the slow eutrophication of a lake. Eutrophication does not happen, or pollution does not happen overnight. It takes time to be degraded. The water quality get degraded. Thirdly, the interactions between political, equity, justice, and ecosystem services. Ecosystem services means taking a safe drinking water from underground resources borewell is a ecosystem service. Getting rainwater at proper time for agriculture is a ecosystem service. Getting clean air for breathing is also a ecosystem service. Getting a noise pollution free environment to sleep night in night properly is also ecosystem services. Or getting the natural cleaners like different birds clean the environment is also natural services. So to get these, we have to understand the deep ecology, as we are saying, very heartfully and very deeply. This involves considering global injustices related to who benefits from ecosystems and who monitor them. All get benefit. No, not a single organism, not a single human being is there on planet which is not getting benefit from the environment or global earth. So everybody should be careful. Finally, stronger relations between science and society must be promoted. Dealing sustainability issues require effective policies, practices, and knowledge that are developed in a socially agreed way. So this requires researchers, policymakers, practitioners, and citizens to collaborate with each other. Social ecology, no doubt, is facing a stage of rapid transformation at present, self-reflection, and also trying to expand its theoretical horizons. Our future is concerned about the basic insight of social, ecological thoughts and theories of eco-philosophy. We are growing with the time to learn practical views of certain society in social dominance, strives originality, more open but narrow thoughts, not overwhelming for the cultural and environmental uniqueness. A human being is wonderful creation on the earth. We know human is the being the supreme on the planet earth, and his nature should be the reflection of Almighty. It should be kind. It should be kind-hearted. It should be the judgmental. It should be justifying to each and every living being, even the biotic and abiotic resources of the nature or planet Earth. Then only our environment could be protected or could be kept sustainable for our future generation for having sustainable development. It should encourage the growth of all creatures on Earth. uh, believe in spiritual values, self-realization, consciousness of humanity, wildlife, and nature. So it is the dream of social culture and participation and contribution in disaster problems that it should be kind at the time of need of other state or the country or other sections of society. Solutions to climate change, acid rain, pollution, and global warming could be achieved with our change of um, mind or inclination towards nature or scientific bent of mind to get know-how of the problems deeply rooted with our living style or lifestyle. So, any question from anybody? So, so today we'll close this session here, and tomorrow we'll meet again. Any question from anybody? Okay. Are you getting what I'm speaking, or I need? I think I'm getting simple language to understand. Or sometimes also I'm
Yes,
giving
Yes,
examples.
sir. Yes, sir.
yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir. We are understanding, but we can't ask anything because we have to read out the topics bit by bit. Then after we can say our doubts.
Okay, 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 okay. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you very much.
namaskar.
Namaskar.
Sir, today's note you also provide na.
Okay, okay. I'll provide.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.